Hello everyone, it's me again, Alan, here with another video. This one's going to be a little bit unusual for me, as I usually don't cover any kind of, video game or anything. But this has been on my mind recently, and I wanted to wait till the hype kind of died down around the game before I covered it, because I didn't want to be seen as jumping on the bandwagon. I just wanted to put my thoughts out there and kind of give an honest assessment. Also, this is one of my videos that will be more podcasty discussion-y, so it will just be a blank background on the video, just a static image. So if this is more meant to be something to be listened to, not something watched. So this is for a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. It is a free game on Steam that I've watched and played and replayed a few times, and if it's an amazing game, and it's best experienced without any foreknowledge of what's going to happen. So I really encourage you to go and watch it yourself and play it yourself. I mean, it's a visual novel, takes about 4 hours, I think, to complete. It's been a hot minute since I last played it, but it is exceptionally well written, and I applaud Team Salvario for creating the game in the first place. Now, I will include a link in the video description. It is, again, absolutely free. So, yeah, there's no reason to not watch it, or play it. I keep saying watch it, it's because it's a visual novel. I keep thinking of watching things. So, for those of you who need a refresher, Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel dating sim style game. You pursue one of 3 girls. A happy, fun game on the surface that quickly devolves into psychological horror involving fourth wall breaking, screen tear, and things like happening upon your best friend's hanging corpse. It turns into a really dark game, really quite suddenly, and though the second half of the game involves a lot of fourth wall breaks, that is the focus of most people, and most people that talk about it tend to focus upon the aspect of the fourth wall breaking. I would prefer to focus upon the psychology of the characters contained within, because just like the poems that are contained within the game, the Doki Doki Literature Club, I believe, contains this double meaning. Now, I will consider the game essentially in 3 different cycles that I consider in a sense of hierarchy, because I will be looking at the psychological states of the characters. Now, with the first cycle, it's the cycle before Sayori's suicide. And I believe that it's probably the most canon, the most realistic look we get at the characters. And it's because of Monika's general lack of tampering, because she's just met the player character. She doesn't see it as necessary to really start messing with the other characters at this point, because she's willing to give it a chance that the player will pick her overall, until, of course, she finds the event maps that tell her that he can't choose her, essentially. The second cycle is the most surreal of the cycles. It's, in my opinion, probably the lowest form of canon. Almost everything that exists within that system is a result of Monika's tampering. It is probably not a good look at all at the player's psychological, or not the player's, the character's psychological states. However, it may reveal that they do have these underlying feelings. So I will use it as some evidence, because she fundamentally doesn't change their psychology, she just exaggerates their traits, which is a very important distinction to remember. Lastly, the third cycle will be, well, it's similar to the second cycle in the sense that Sayori this time is the one that truly messes with everything. However, I do believe that because Sayori is still messing with things, that it can't be considered on par with the first system. So, with that out of the way, let's look into it. The first character I want to really look at is the example of Yuri. At the surface, she's the quintessential quiet girl who loves nothing more than reading, drinking tea, and enjoying her own solitude. Getting to know the character over the course of 3 arcs, I believe she's probably the most developed character. However, I don't believe that her cutting is meant to represent self-harm as it's often portrayed in media. I believe she's instead meant to show a repressed budding sexual fetishist. To put simply, I believe she uses the cutting as a sexual outlet rather than a purely emotional one, as she tends to become excited around her cutting rather than seeing it as a stress relief, as a lot of real-life cutters actually would. This is further reinforced by the second arc's poem, in which she compares blood to lust, which is a very interesting thing. And in addition, it's also the same point in which you would reveal information about Natsuki's dad beating her, which is something that we already know happens. So it's a section in which you would get a character reveal for either one at the same time. So that's further reinforcing that it would be part of her actual thoughts. It's a struggle that can be very real for a lot of teenagers who are pretty confused about their sexuality, especially one that's as repressed and a loner like Yuri is. Because in the end, a lot of our media in the real world, and assuming that Doki Doki Literature Club takes place in a world similar to our own, in the games world as well, that frowns upon all of this. It frowns upon teenagers having sex in the first place, and it frowns even more upon them having strange, wacky things. It's, well, I believe wrong, because we're trying to take kids that are already confused enough about themselves, and we're trying to, just force them to repress themselves even more. That's, I believe, the reason that Team Salvario tried to address this. Moving on from Yuri, I do believe that the next character to logically go to would be Natsuki, the smallest one of the group. One who is abused, and however, I do not believe this is meant to be her defining trait, because overall I believe that she is either gay or bisexual, simply based on her poetry, especially the one about the girl who loves spiders. It contains a lot of very classic moments that inherently are meant to convey the standard American-style responses to homosexuality, especially the anti-homosexual responses. In addition, if you notice, she's the character that is often in the closet, in a less subtle reminder of what she is probably repressing. Her dad beats her because she comes home with manga of scantily clad girls, which is probably a statement of that he even knows she may be gay and is trying to beat it out of her, as unfortunately a lot of parents do. She doesn't know how to cope with these feelings. She doesn't like the fact that the male protagonist is intruding upon the all-girls club. She simply enjoys her parfait girls that are her outlet into her sexuality. They're, unfortunately, seem to be her main outlet. She's neither confident enough nor really able to talk to other girls. She's unable to look beyond her own abusive father and the ways that even her friends almost patronize her about everything. She tries to be cute because she doesn't want to be seen as butch. She doesn't want to be seen as the classic icon that, the short hair, tough girl persona. She wants to be seen as something cute, something desirable. The lipstick lesbian, if you would. And it's really a topic a lot of teenagers, especially in the modern world, have to really deal with. And I think that's about it for her. I mean, I'm just trying to give a little brief overview for each character, so please understand I don't mean to be taking these topics lightly. I'm just trying to point out each one in turn for a fairly short video. Thirdly, we get to Sayori, who's quite obviously depressed. This is the one that really kind of seems obvious, just looking at the first and third arc of the game. She masks herself with happiness and alters the game's code to try and make herself happy. But it never takes. She's not happy. She's depressed, and it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. She literally hangs herself in front of the main character. And like so many depressed people, she tries to cut herself down. You could see the blood in her fingertips from where she tried to claw at the rope. It's tragedy, as you very rarely see in games. Hell, you rarely see it in any kind of media. A suicide like that is depressing and unfortunately common for teenagers, especially those suffering with depression who can't get help elsewhere. She doesn't appear to have any family to help her, as you can tell by the fact that you go to her house and it seems empty. She never gets chastised by her parents or teachers for showing up to school late every single day, even though that's a telltale sign of depression. Her best friend is borderline abusive to her, simply dismissing everything she does and any attempt she has at happiness, until she's finally driven over the edge and can no longer stand to see the world suffer as her last friend, Monica, turns against her. She's probably the most obvious, but also one of the most tragic of the characters. It's difficult to even talk about, in the sense that this is something a lot of real teenagers deal with. And it's something that, unfortunately, the game shows all too realistically. Lastly, we'll be looking at the girl herself, Monica. She is abusive. That's all there is to it. She's abusive towards the player, isolating him like a spouse would, like a spouse who beats their other spouse. I don't want to gender it, because I feel like that's a problem in media. She is abusing the boy that is the main character by isolating him from his friends. She is abusing her own friend, Sayori, in the sense that she pushed her to suicide. She abuses the other club members by allowing them to fight when she should step in and knows the real reason behind their suffering. She knows everything, yet she doesn't do anything. She's, even if not abusive, at the very least sadistic, because she seems to enjoy the conflict, the fighting that goes on around her, because she could stop it at any time. Her horror is the sense that, though she does have a reasonable idea behind it, her past does not mean that she gets a free ticket to be abusive. Though she is a sympathetic character, without doubt, it is difficult to look on her as anything other than that. Sympathetic, but certainly not somebody we should sympathize with, if you understand my meaning there. And certainly it's a trait so many of us have had as teenagers, and thankfully many of us have grown out of, but unfortunately not all of us. And to just see it depicted so, just in such a minor way, but at the same time so apparent, shows great respect to the sense of abuse that you have, because a lot of those who are abused don't even realize they've been abused. They see it as themselves deserving it, just as the main character does. So it's really probably one of the deepest messages of the game there. So what's the point of all this, you might ask? Why analyze characters that were clearly meant to be archetypes for a game within a game? Well, because once I looked at the characters, the situation became readily apparent. In this analogy, Monica is a school shooter. She isn't just, saying there's no happiness here and killing herself. She's killing everybody around her. These people are real to her. They may not be real to us because we're not game characters, but she's known these people her entire life. If you suddenly realize that you were in the Matrix, could you kill every person you've ever known? Could you kill your best friend after looking them in the eye? I don't think so. I know I couldn't. I don't think I would be able to, even if I knew they were fake. And I'm sure many people would agree with me on that. Monica sees herself as Major Kong from Doctor Strangelove, riding the bomb that destroys the world, but in reality she's nothing but a self-obsessed narcissist with no vision of the future. The message she misses, and the message that too too many teenagers miss is that things get better. It always gets better. There's almost never a good reason to kill yourself. Or kill anybody around you. It's not a message that she should believe in, even seeing what she's seen. She could help her friend. She could help Natsuki realize that being gay is okay, or Yuri realize that she's not weird for wanting to do things that seem out of the ordinary. She could make her friend Sayori realize that this is okay and she can seek professional help for it. Destroying the entire world isn't the right solution, and it's not a solution that really should come from not being able to get a boy you've just met. It's unfortunate, to put it bluntly. She's unfortunate, in a way. And the true sadness of the game is that heartbroken teens like this do these things. It's a reflection of the modern world. Every day you hear about it. You hear about school shootings, and you hear about murder-suicides of teenagers. And in Doki Doki Literature Club, even though we don't realize it, we're watching the story of a school shooter. We're watching a girl go from a happy, normal teenager to a monster who will kill everyone around her and finally kill herself out of guilt and destroy everything she's ever known in a petty act of jealousy. It's a heartbreaking analogy to realize, and one that I've unfortunately not seen online. And I'm glad that Team Salvario managed to put this subtext in the game to let people see the heartbreak that teenagers go through, and that the solution that Monica takes is not the one that should be taken. There are many more better solutions that you can have for this situation. But in the end, you have no choice as the main character. And in the end, too many people have no choice. There's nothing that you can do in the game to stop Monica. There's nothing you can do in real life to stop a lot of these poor kids. And it's tragedy, but tragedy that reflects the real world. And on that heartbreaking conclusion, I bid you farewell. Like this video if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. This is my first attempt at a video game thing, and I clearly chose a doozy of a game. So, leave me your opinions in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm wrong, or if you think I should go more in depth into this, because I just kind of gave it a skim. Because I feel like the conclusion was a lot more important than any of the supporting little arguments. However, if you disliked it, I can't say I blame you, but tell me why you disliked it, if you did. Do you think my conclusion's wrong, or do you just think that that maybe you could do something, or I don't know, whatever. Just leave a comment if you disagree with me. And if you want more content like this, whatever you liked about it, let me know, and I'll make more. I'll make myself sad for you guys. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye bye.